Hello and welcome back to this series on using Wagtail. So today we'll be continuing from the last tutorial and we'll be finishing off this tutorial document in the Wagtail documentation. Now, the first section we are going to be looking at is the parents and children. So as I get into this, I should also explain that this episode is going to be focused a lot more on the inner workings, not so much on the actual code itself. So if you want to skip ahead at certain parts, feel free to stuff that you think is more relevant. And on that topic, the first thing we'll be covering is the relationship between parents and children. Parents are nerds, whereas children can be thought of as nerds or leaves depending. So what a parent's job is that it will usually link towards other pages in a tree-like structure. So the parent will come at the top and will have several children beneath it that may themselves contain more children and so on and so on. A leaf, on the other hand, has no children. It is the end content of that series of pages and doesn't actually connect to anything else. Wagtail utilises this tree structure to make web development rather easy. It's not difficult to see how pages relate to each other in this tree-like structure. So you'll have a home page at the start that might branch out. So in our example, to a blog index, or it might branch out to other resources. And then following on from that blog index, there will be a list of blogs. And then when you click on those blogs, it will take you to the leaf, the blogs themselves. This, again, is very helpful. It massively simplifies web development in a way that's very easy to understand. But let's look a little deeper into this. Let's look at the theory page here. So here we are on the theory page. So the first section we'll look at is the one covering nerds. So the code in front of us here is just describing some event page index. Not too important. With several ways of interacting with the nerds and with features that nerds can use. So the first one listed here is the descendant of self. Talk a bit more about here. What this does is that we'll go through all descendants of this node, everything that comes below it in the tree. And we will add them to this live here. So if we just read from here, the example makes sure to limit the return objects of piece of content which makes sense, specifically ones which have been published through Wagtail's admin interface live, and are children of this node, descendant of self. So there it's just saying that it gathers all published content that are again descendants of our current node. We can also define what type of node this is. So as it describes here, we can decide whether or not it will be a child page by setting a subpage types class property. Oh my god. We can decide what type of node this is going to be by setting a subtype class property in our model. Again, written here. So this will allow us to specify what's children and then what is going to be a parent. Next, we will consider leaves. So leaves are again the end product, effectively. Well, not the end product. So leaves are effectively the end bit of content when there's no more content to go down after this. Perhaps leaves might link to each other depending on the type of website you are making. That isn't too important. The main thing is, again, there's not really anything after this, usually. There's nothing below it on the tree. Again, we can use subpage types and parent page types to limit what can and can't contain a leaf. Otherwise, again, anything can really be connected to anything unless specified otherwise. That's just the default within Wagtail. Leaves are a lot less complicated due to their nature of being at the bottom of the tree. So the other relationships section here describes other ways that these sections can relate to each other. So again, I've been using trees to describe because, broadly speaking, Wagtail operates on this basis. However, it is possible for some non-tree-like structures to be used. So, for example, posts can be linked directly to other posts if you so wish. This isn't too difficult to do, and you can do it if you want. It's more circumstantial things. The main thing is that you just have to do this yourself. There's nothing assumed like there is with the base tree-like structure. With the theory covered about how nodes and leaves work, we can return back to our section on parents and children. So, this section mostly just describes why we chose to use post.specific intro rather than just post intro. And as explained in the following section, it has to do with how we've defined blog page here. So notice here that we are inheriting from the page class. So that means things already in page will flow through into blog page. At the same time, it also means that we want to specify things from blog page. We need to make sure that it doesn't also include things from the page class as well. So that's where specific comes in. We can use specific to, well, specify a certain feature that's only on blog page. In this case, it will be intro. So title, again, is already on page. That's just a part of page, it's part of the base, it's already there. Intro, however, we have made sure specifically on blog page, and by specifying this, we can make sure that we only get blog page, effectively. We can, of course, simplify our code a little bit. Simplify by some definitions, I guess, by including this with tag here. So we can just define now that post will refer to, in this section, post.specific, so we don't have to keep repeating post.specific when we want to reference something in our blog page model. The last bit of this section about parents and children is this query set for accessing nodes and leaves. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but if you want to use this and reference it, we can go here. And then you can also find more information about it here, but seeing as I wanted to focus on nodes and leaves, I will leave this to you to do in your own time, if you so wish. With parents and children covered, we can now move on to overriding context. So, as pointed out here, our current blog index code has a few issues, so that will be this here. Those issues being that A, blogs can display stuff in reverse chronological order, not just can, generally do. But also that it is possible to display unpublished content because we've defined it too broadly. So what we want to do is we want to change the query set that we're using to access this data, and to do that we will use getContext. So what we want to do is we want to head over to our blog index page and our models, and then we want to override it with this code here. So if I head back, I've already got it highlighted. Oh, I'm just going to highlight it again. Then we change it like so. So after that, we then just also want to change one part of our HTML, specifically the blog index page.html. So we just copy this over. Let me head back over. And then what was the section extend? For posting page. So that will be this one. Switch it to that. Save. And then head over. So now I'm just going to try and demonstrate quickly what happens when we unpublish one of the pages. So, right then, so I've gone ahead and added 2 more pages. So we had blog from last time. I've now also gone and added an unpublished blog. So just go here. Look, the option is there to publish it since I haven't yet. But we also have published blog just to demonstrate. And you notice it has the option to unpublish is the main thing, I guess. I can make changes and publish those, but the point is this one is published. So now if I view blog index live, notice how it's only published blog and blog. Now I'm just going to try and switch back. Oh, that's the wrong one. To the old method. I want to make sure my server's not going to crash. There it is. So now if I was to refresh, they've all vanished. Curious. Okay, the error was found. It was just I forgot to save this page apparently. What I had, but notice now how unpublished blog is still unpublished, but it does now show up in our blog index. So that's why we would change the code the way we did. So let me just switch it back now and make sure I save it. There we go. Right, now for the moment I'm sure many of you have been waiting for. How do we add images to our Wagtail site? So, there are two ways of doing this, the two main ones anyway. We can either just embed images into the body of our rich text field, or we can define a gallery within our models, which is what we're going to do mostly. So first things first, we need to add a blog page gallery image to our models.py, and we need to add a lot. So we will continue this time. So this I'm going to override from blog page down to, well, we're going to add a new section. So let me just go and open this up. Override all that. And now we also have a few more things to import. So here are the new imports. Let me just check if I can override all my stuff with this. So obviously we need a model cluster. Yeah, so this will just override everything, and I can't stress this enough, except models. Do not override models. It's a mistake I made once, you do not want to make it yourself. So anyway, that is now saved, all these changes have been made, and now since we've added a new class, we need to make migrations again. Let me just stop my server, I just like to do that, in case anything goes wrong. Make migrations. Let that run, and then you migrate. Having made these migrations, I'll now talk to you a bit about some of the changes we've made to models here. So one of the first things you'll notice is that we're importing orderable here. And the reason we're importing orderable is so we can get sort order, which allows us to keep track of images in the gallery. The parental key to blog page is what attaches gallery images to a specific page. So notice here it mentions that a parental key is similar to a foreign key. And for those unfamiliar, a foreign key is what connects two different tables within a database together. Usually there will be some primary key that will connect to a foreign key in some other table. And in Wagtail and Django, foreign key works much the same way. So we'll use it to reference other tables that we have already created. In this instance, it allows us to use the blog page gallery images as a child of blog page. So effectively, we'll be able to reference our gallery image in blog page. And notice here, that means it will be treated as a part of page operations, which will allow us to do things like submit it to moderation or keep track of its history. Image is also a foreign key. So notice a small difference here. So image is Wagtail's, it references Wagtail's built-in image. It's a very small difference. Capital I, uncapitalized I, could be easy to get mixed up. And this is where the images themselves are stored. And what Wagtail does, it allows us to have an image chooser panel. So all images that we've got saved within our database, we can access from this panel and then place throughout our page. So again, it'll be a pop-up interface, allows us to choose existing images or upload new ones. I forgot to mention the last bit. And for those that are interested, this is represented as a many-to-many relationship. Last but not least is the onDelete command here. So the two examples given are cascade and set null. So again, those familiar with how databases work, cascade will delete all references of that image. It will just remove them, so there'll be no more anywhere. And this is just if there's some key bit of data that you don't want repeated elsewhere it's removed, you would use cascade. So an example is given here. The example I'm going to go with might be very similar. Picture a database that contains employees' information. If one of the employees is removed, you're probably going to want to remove them from all other parts of that database. So for example, if you remove a person from the employee table, maybe you also want to remove from the wages and salary table, if you follow. The other example here is set null, and effectively this will just set that instance of the image to null. There'll be nothing there. It'll tell you as much. But it will tell you that there's nothing there rather than just deleting it. And the last thing discussed here is that, just reading from the tutorial, adding the inline panel to blog page contents panel makes a gallery of images available on the editing interface of blog page. After that, we are going to want to copy this code here, and then this will go onto our blog page template here. So I believe it can replace everything. Let me check. And then with any luck, this will actually add images. So here we are using the image tag. Oh, sorry, something else that is very important to mention. When dealing with images in the way described, you want to make sure that you have included the Wagtails tag within your HTML. I talked about this in the previous video, but if you want to reference Wagtail specific commands, you need this, or else Django will return an error of some kind. So I'm going to cut away and I will get back to you once I've got the images up and working. Right, I am back on my website, I've got the server back up and running, and here I am editing the published blog that I created earlier. You'll now notice at the bottom that there's this extra section, Gallery Images. So if we wanted to add an image, we would have to click this, and then we would choose an image. So I'm now going to go to this upload option, and I've gone and grabbed 3 images that I've already created. 2 of my dogs, 1 of a random horse I took a picture of. So let's add Pablo. We can add a tag, so I'm just going to add dog and cute. At the moment, these aren't too relevant, but they will be. We will deal with edit these later. Then if I click upload, it will add. We can change the image and we can add a caption. So I'm going to add the caption cute dog Pablo, like so. Next, I'm going to add a second image. So it'll display previous images as well as popular tags. So then this time I am going to add my other dog in there. So I'm just going to leave the title as india.jpg, just select the other one as pablo.jpg. It's not too important. So then I'm going to add again cute and dog. And then upload. And then this one can be cute and dog in there. Now, if I, well, first things first, I want to save draft. If I click on preview, nothing, oh, it's loading apparently. This might not work at the moment, so instead, let me try publishing this. And then viewing it live, and then voila! So we've got a generic post, and then we've got these 2 adorable dogs added to the blog. There are other things we can actually do to change the images. So if I head back to documentation here. So first things first, make sure again that you've actually changed your code to include them. So I believe it is this section that, yeah, as the images from your gallery, as this might indicate, it will just go through all the images in the gallery and then start adding them with this styling. Okay. So now, this section is going to be mostly focused on how we use images in templates. So the basic syntax that you're probably going to be using for most of your images is this. You have your curly brackets percentage marks, and then within it you have the image tag itself, the image, so this will usually be the location within the files, and then the resize rules, which is how we want to change the sizing of the image. Which we'll discuss a lot more momentarily. Both image and the resize rule must be passed in the template to the template tag, as stated here. They're going to be needed just to upload your image. So if I just head to our HTML code, so yeah, notice here so we've got item.image, because again, item is taken from this for loop here. So it's going through and adding the name or whatever the image in our gallery is called. And then fill 320 times 240. which is just going to the pixel size of the box it's contained within. Again, we'll explain what fill is more in a moment. So, these are both needed to actually use your image. You can't really define an image without, as I've already stated. But they are also very useful. So obviously you need an image, hence why the image tag must be filled. However, the resize rule tag is a little more flexible. That is, you're not just having a single command that you'll use always, and here are the different commands. The maximum and the minimum determines the area that your image is allowed to fill. So for example, if you set your, well again the example here is maximum being set to 1000 by 500 pixels. So long as your image is smaller than that, it won't be cropped or potentially resized. If you set a minimum size to your image of being 500 times 200, then again similarly, if it's too small, then it will be resized / cropped to fit within that container. Very basic command, it's not very difficult to understand. Width and height works in much the same way, except it'll be on a specific, well, axis. So either you set the width or you set the height. Again, if you wanted to set the maximum minimum of both, or the scale, or the fill of both, you would just use the fill, max, or min commands. So I'm going to just skip ahead quickly and go to fill. Fill states the dimensions you actually want the image to fit to. So rather than just defining what the image is allowed to fill, it will say that the image must fill these dimensions. Last but not least is scale, which works in a very similar way, except this one takes a percentage and will resize the image by the percentage specified. So one thing I want to talk before I discuss the thumbnails and the use of resize is that not all images will upscale as intended. So when using the fill command, it is possible for you to define a fill of 400 by 400 pixels, and then if you inserted a 400 by 200 image, it might not actually resize to be 400 by 400 as expected. But instead, what will happen is that Wagtail will work out the ratio and will change it to the correct ratio, but then won't necessarily do it to the correct size. So the example is that we put in the 400 and 200. We want it to fill a 400 by 400 space, so it's a 2:1 to a 1:1 ratio. And it will do that ratio difference, but it will do it by halving the 400, not doubling the 200. It's a slight issue that you may have to work around. Scrolling back up. So, fill is very useful if you want to add a thumbnail for these images. So these images can be used in multiple places. Because we've defined a gallery specifically, and it isn't just embedded in the code, we can use it in a lot of different locations there. And we can use a fill command to change the size depending on where it is. You may notice that the crop isn't quite what you'd want it to be. You might want to crop closer to the focal point, as this section will discuss. In this case, or in this instance, we would use the C line here. So this isn't a separate thing that you pass in, so it isn't like what the image link is to the fill command. It is a part of the fill command attached by a hyphen here. And the amount that you'd actually change it by is determined by percentage here. So, again, in the example given, if you would like the image to be cropped as closely as possible to the focal point, you would add C100. You can also change it to be less than that, so 75 and 50 are also given examples, but it must fit within the range of 0 to 100. As discussed at the start of that section, it is particularly useful if you're trying to add thumbnails. Finally, there is also just the original command. So this will work much the same way as fill and all that lot will. What original does is, you might be able to guess, it just keeps it as the original size, whatever it was uploaded to within your files. So it's useful if if you know the size of the image going in. So it might not be as appropriate for our blog where we want it to not take up too much space, but could be useful if you're just designing a static website and you know the actual size of the image isn't going to change because you're going to edit it beforehand, for example. We could also add different we can also add different attributes to the image tag. So for example, we can add a class and an ID and then change that just as we would in normal HTML by defining certain parts of that class or that ID later on in our code. The code for this is shown here and here. I won't go into too much detail. One of the things that should be noted though is that it does broadly still follow Django's actual HTML scripting, like the XHTML. But it also functions very similar to regular HTML, so if you've got an understanding of that, this section shouldn't be too difficult for you to understand. You just need to know what to write. So for example, within our source temp photo here, we can define its width, we can define its height, and we can define any other alternate attributes it has. And then add it to the class, myCustomClass. It should also be noted that we can use attributes as a shortcut to just quickly change things such as the source width, height, and all in one go by defining the class, as seen here. We can also use alternate HTML tags by using as. The example given is here. Again, there's not much detail to go into. And the last section I'm not going to talk too much about is using images embedded in rich text. You might recall that towards the start of this I mentioned that images can just be embedded straight into the website. And there are a few commands that can help you edit these images if you do so. You can also create your own. The section in the tutorial is here. I'm not going to focus on it though because I personally just much prefer Wagtail's alternate method of doing it via adding it in the models. Just come back quickly because I noticed during editing that I forgot to talk about background colour. So very briefly, Wagtail by default sets the background colour to white for an image, so it doesn't take up all of the space given. It will then use up that background colour as a filler. To simply change it, you would include in your image background colour and then you would set its value there. Nothing too complicated, nothing too difficult. I hope this is helpful to you in some way as well. Anyhow, so time to resume to the rest of it. Image quality works in a similar way to image format, at least when working locally, as in we can just define it quickly here. However, you can also change it globally. By default, image quality and quality of WebP is 85, which is quite high apparently. So if you feel that might be a bit of an issue for your website, if you've got a lot of images or you're just worried about people's computers running too slow, you can just lower it. So to do so globally, we'll change this in the settings.py. Or if you need to change it locally, you would do it like so. Just adding that command and then the percentage. One thing to note is that this change will only affect images that you upload from then on. Images previously uploaded won't yet be affected, and if you want to change them, then you need to run this command, specifically the section where we delete the object, and we'll just force them to be reloaded. And then that gets us to the bottom of the image section here. It was quite a long detour, but we made it. So we can continue with our main image section of the tutorial. So again, since our gallery of images is from a database, we can reference it in other places as well. So now we are going to in fact create a thumbnail, I believe. So we're going to define a main image using this code here. Obviously, we are going to be changing our blog page, so hopefully I've not closed that. Just override blog page like so. Head back over here, and now we also need to update our index HTML page. Again, always make sure that you've loaded your Wagtail tags. I'm going to double check it's on there. Not in the same way, so you are going to want to override, I would imagine. But in the meantime, so we want to do the for post in blog page, so we're changing this section within the content. And now I'm just going to make sure everything. I believe we're changing this section within the content. Let me double check. Yeah, I believe so. We also want to change the tag here. Right, make sure that that is saved. And now, I believe if I was to make sure the server's still running, which it is. If I want to view blog index live, notice now how it does have a main image. It shows this adorable little dog here. Right, we're almost done now, as there are two last sections to cover. We have to deal with tagging posts, and we also have to deal with categories. So the first one we'll deal with is tagging posts. You may recall how I added some tags to the blog, specifically to the images, should I say, specifically cute and dog. We can do so for our pages in general, so entire blog pages. So we want to head back over to models.py, and then I believe we change everything from blog page downwards. Oh no, we keep images. We just want to change blog page whilst also defining the blog page tag. So we'll override this. I believe so. Let me double check. Oh, no, we keep the middle section. My apologies. So it's just this bit that we will add the other part to. And then we also want to change the content panels at the bottom. So that will be this section here. Let me just do that, make sure it's saved. Is there anything else? Okay, so I also just want to change the input here as well. So models are still there. So scroll back to the top. Let me just check what's actually been changed. So we start on model cluster field, which is there. We have the extra model cluster field, and then is this just going to work much the same? Page order row, rich text field, field panel. Right, so yeah, just feel free to override everything from model cluster fields downwards. You can also just copy paste the entire thing. You can also override import since it will be included in that one. So with all of that changed, we can scroll down now, and now we need to make migrations again since we have changed the class. So I'll stop running the server, Python manage.py. Oh, classic. There's going to be one manage per video, I believe, at least. Python manage.py, make migrations. Then once that's done, we can then just migrate. Again, you can see what changes we made. And there we go. So now we can edit one of our blog pages to include the tag. So let me do just that. Let me run it to run server. Right, should be done. So let's edit published blog now. And notice that as a tag. So we'll include dogs. I'll include dogs, dog, and cute. I'll publish that. And now, with any luck, if I click on publish dog, oh, let me go back actually. Is that going to change anything? What about the view line? Hold on. Trying to remember. How do I? So I believe the tags won't actually show up just yet because we haven't rendered them. My bad. So, of course, we need to change the blog page now to actually include these tags. So what was the section it wanted changing? We just add it somewhere. So I guess I will add it here and hope for the best. Fingers crossed this doesn't break anything and I'm not just being a bit of an idiot. There we go, cute dog and dogs. So you'll notice if we click on one of these, there's no page. We haven't actually created a page for these tags yet. But that's no issue, we are going to do that. So, let's go back. So it talks here about the URL used, whether it's the slug or the page. You can feel free to read that if you want, but it's not too important at the moment. So now what we want to do is we want to add, well, we want to add some effect what happens when we click on the tags, and we'll do it by adding this new class. Is it new? Let me check. No, it's not new, I don't believe. I think we're just adding this to blog tag index page. I'll check if we've already created that. No. Not really. So if I head back over, create this blog tag index page, like so. I'd imagine we're going to make migrations in a second. Yep. So stop running the server, make migrations. Oh, not that one. Accidentally went down one there. There it is, migrate. Oh wait, I've just realised I haven't. Oh wait, no I don't. Go back. So now what we want to do is we want to head back to admin and we're going to create a new page. Let me just see where this wants a new page to be created, other than in admin. So we'll suppose that we'll create it. Oh, of course, I'm forgetting to rerun the server. So now with any luck, I'll click on home. Click on blog index. Not like that, though. That's not what I meant to do. Go down. So these are the blogs, so sorry, we'll go back. I'll add a child page. Blog tag index page. I'll just add the title. Blog tag. Publisher doesn't need to be very complicated. I think, anyway. So, oh right, so it recommends here that you probably want it to be a new page or view of the child page, parallel to blog index, which is what I've done. So now we need to create a template for this page. With the model for the tag page properly created, we now need to make a template for this page so there's actually something to display. So we head over back to our templates here, so blog templates blog, and now we want to create a new blog tag, well, template. So I'm going to create a text document, I'm going to override it and make it HTML like so. I'm going to edit this in Visual Studio Code, like so. And I'm just going to copy and paste this code over. Like so. So with that done, we should now be able to, don't want to save this page. Well, first off again I need to run, oh, so it's still running, so I never turn it off actually. So now, if I refresh and click dogs, still nothing, but is there a blog index page? Let me just get the slug up for that. So, oh, that's a blog index, I mean the blog tag index page. So the slug for that is blog index. So hopefully if I do so. So yeah, it brings us back to here. It displays both of our blocks. But what should it do? Okay, I have managed to fix the issue, though to be entirely honest, not entirely sure how. So all I can really tell you is that I just changed the title of the blog tag index page to blog tag index page, as well as the slug to tags. Beyond that, I didn't really change anything else. I did also change the location of where if is. That was just almost entirely for aesthetic reasons. However, if you run into an issue, run out of ideas, and you want to try something, you can always just try moving if towards the bottom, like I've done. Anyway, so with that done, we've now got a functioning tag page. So, sadly, nothing actually shows up when you click on tag. Click on it at the moment, but we've got it a better state than before. Oh, never mind, so dog shows up when we click on dogs. Oh, it is working now. I don't know what the other one was about. And then cute, there we go. So it is actually working now. With that finally sorted, we can actually move on to categories, our last section. With tags out of the way, we can now continue on to our last section, categories. So one of the first things we're going to want to do is to actually define what our category is. And this is going to be a bit different this time. So you look at this code here, you might notice something a bit different. That being the models.model here. In almost all of our other examples, notice in our models.py here, we pass in page with a couple of sections like tagged item base here. However, there's a good reason for this, and that is because our categories are going to work differently to how the other pages did. So let me just make sure that all the codes are copied over. And I will explain briefly what, for example, this app register snippet is. Well, it can explain that. So the register is a decorator. And if memory serves, it allows us to actually reference it in different areas, effectively. So it can be reused. The snippets themselves can be managed through the admin interface, but aren't actually pages themselves. So you don't need to worry about like maintaining a page that only the admin can access, it's just dedicated to managing them. The admin interface will include that already. We want to save these changes that we've just made, and then we want to migrate them. So I'm going to stop the server there, make migrations, and then we want to migrate. I'll come back to where it's on there. Migrate there. Right, now we can actually add the categories to the blog page. So I'll just copy this code for the blog page, head over, I was already in models.py, so I don't know why I tried to change it. Head over here, and then I believe we just need to override all of this that's already there, at least for the blog page. And then once more, so once more, I'm going to make sure that these new inputs aren't like, well, these are definitely going to override the rest, so we're definitely keeping models. Have we got forms already? Nope. So we need to import forms. We've got parental key, but we've not got many to many, so that also needs to go. Have we got cluster tangible? We haven't. Have we got tagged item base? No, we haven't. So we just, oh yes we do, sorry, ignore me. It's right there. Same with a cluster taggable. Towards the top. So all we really needed was the forms and the parental many-to-many field. Right, changes have been made. So we're making use of the widget keyword here part of field panel, and it's used effectively like a checkbox. The idea is that this would be more user-friendly as against it by this small paragraph here. The last thing we actually need to do is to skip ahead apparently, is to change our blog page HTML here to include the categories. So let me head back over to blog page HTML, and what section is it editing? So the header there. Let me make sure there's nothing I'm missing. Category and categories. That seems to be correct. Seems. So I'll push you forward one, save, and then with any luck, I can now go. Well, first off, run my server again. Manage.py. Head over to just the admin area. View our blog index live. Click on this. That's a big error. Apparently there's no such thing as blog page categories. So what have we missed? What did we miss? Apparently I forgot to migrate the categories over from blog page, which would explain the issue. Let's try it one more time. There we go. So the page works. I don't notice any categories. Am I supposed to be able to see them? Oh, I suppose I might actually need to edit that. So, hold on. I want to see you and your children. So I head over to edit. Now there we go. So we haven't actually added any categories. So if I wanted to go to categories, I believe, yep, I go over to snippets. I can add a blog category. So this time I'm going to add the category animals, and I can actually choose an image icon if I so wish. So for this, I suppose I'll just use Pablo again. Look at his little cute face. And then yeah, I can just use the widget to just select and delete if I so wish. So now I believe I head over to home page, children of blog index, and then I edit publish blog. I can just take animals. We try publishing that, and then if I refresh, it's in animals. And that brings us to the end of this tutorial. So I hope you've enjoyed these few episodes, or at least found them helpful in some way. Be kind, it is my first ever tutorial. If you want to learn more, again there will be links to this tutorial in the description. You can also access the documentation for Wagtail from this site. And good luck in building any websites using this amazing resource. I would like to thank you all for watching, and I appreciate it, so thank you. Goodbye.